Greetings and welcome to Growth Hacking Secrets. I'm your host, Mohammed Siddique from Atlanta, Georgia. On this episode, we have a special guest, Vivian McKinnon. Vivian is the Floatation and Post Traumatic Growth Specialist, multi award winning international public speaker, and best selling author. Please join me to give a warm welcome to our guest, Vivian McKinnon. Vivian, welcome.
Hiya, thank you for having me.
Thank you. Let me start with this. Where were you? What happened? Who were you surrounded with that inspired you to do what you do today?
Oh, wow, that's a great question. Where were you? Well, I grew up in Scotland in the 1970s, and I had a parent who was struggling with addiction and another parent who was struggling with trauma. And that made for quite a traumatic childhood, lots of different adverse childhood experiences. By age 8, I was drinking alcohol. By age 13, I was smoking cannabis. By 15, I ran away from home. By 20, I was homeless and living on the streets with a 1-year-old. When I was almost 30, I became slightly unwell. And within the space of 6 hours, I went from being slightly unwell to completely unconscious. I then spent 2 days on a life support machine. And when I came back from that, I realized things had to change. I realized that my body and my mind were just saying no more. The consultant and the doctors at the time just said it must have been something viral because there was nothing they could pick up on. But I knew what it was. I knew it was a really chaotic lifestyle. So I made lots of changes. I decided to do a sponsored walk. I went out to China. I walked over 100 miles of the Great Wall. And I started to really change my environment and the people who were in that environment. So I started surrounding myself with people who kind of held me up, people who supported me, people who, I suppose, seen something in me that I never even knew was there. And that really inspired me. And then in 2004, I was introduced to flotation therapy. And still to this day, I am at a loss to actually explain what happened in that float tank. But something inside me clicked. When I was about 4 years old, I remember lying in long grass and I was running away from something and I was quite scared. And I remember almost like a part of me rose up out of me and kind of just disappeared. And in that float tank, something came straight back and was was in there. And that was a huge catalyst for me for change, which then inspired me to go on. And there wasn't an awful lot known about flotation back then. And it was very much seen as a spa treatment. But I knew different. I knew it was a mental health intervention. So the people who I surrounded myself with after that were people within the mental health and trauma recovery industry and who were in that field and other people who were on their similar journey.
What are the top three reasons why do people fail?
Well, for me, fail stands for first attempt in learning. And I think we all need to do that. We all need to, no one is ever going to be successful from their first attempt at anything. In fact, I'll take that back. You can be successful, but not hugely successful at your first attempt. So the top three reasons why people fail, or the top three reasons why people are not successful the first time, is usually lack of experience. The second thing would be some people are overconfident in areas that they maybe aren't quite as capable. And some people can be really closed off to listening to advice, to just doing what they think is the right thing and not really consulting with anyone. So I think that's another reason. And the third reason why most people fail is a lack of confidence in themselves, a lack of belief that they can do anything, that the patterns and the programs that they have been taught by the people around them as they grew up are not necessarily true.
What is your greatest failure story? What did you learn and how did you recover from it?
Oh, wow. My greatest failure story. I think my greatest failure story would be being homeless and living on the streets with a 1-year-old. And it was seen by others as a huge fail. But for me, that was my first attempt in learning how tenacious I was, how resilient I was, how much that it didn't matter materialistically what I had, that my was nothing in comparison to me. And it made me realize that there is nothing I can own, nothing I can purchase, nothing I can have in my possession that is more valuable or important than my sense of self. And I recovered from that by just realizing that there's nothing, life can't really get much more disconnected than the situation I found myself in. And even although that was 30 years ago, I still remember that. I still remember the stories that I had from that. And I still will not walk past someone who has found themselves in a situation where they are on the streets. I always take the time to, even if it's just 5 minutes. And sometimes I would buy a coffee, but I know that in that situation, people's time and recognition is what matters most. And that's about human connection.
What are your top three success secrets that others can model from?
My main top success secret would be the only expectation to have of anything is no expectations. We go into so many things putting so many requirements on it, or them, or the situation, or whatever that is. So when we have an expectation, we can either successfully meet that expectation and then we go off and we try and set another goal or do another thing, or if we have no expectations, then it means that when we are successful, we're open to opportunity. So that would be my first thing: is the only expectation to have is no expectations. The second secret I would say is start before you're ready. So many people say, "Oh, do you know, I'll start that business when I have £20,000 in the bank. I'll start that business when my children grow up. I'll start that business when I have a bit more confidence." No, start before you're ready. My third success secret would be remember to breathe. Remember that your last breath you take is a signal, is a huge signal that you're going to expire. So the first breath you take is a huge signal to say you're inspired. Every single breath between the first and the last is a chance to be inspired. So remember to breathe.
What motivates you within?
What motivates me within is the deep connection I have to myself, that I listen to my body. I listen to my gut instincts, and gut instincts are sometimes confused with strong emotion. Strong emotion, what happens if you don't listen to a gut instinct? A gut instinct is a small whisper at the very beginning of something or in a situation that just gives you some internal knowledge. So what motivates me within is listening to that gut instinct, doing what my body wants me to do. If I feel tired, I sleep. I drink 2 litres of water every single day. I sleep between 7 and 9 hours every single night. I keep my diet pretty clean, and I float at least once a week. So it means that on the inside, I can be the best that I can. But definitely what motivates me is just listening to my body.
What is your company's motto?
Our company's motto is "The magic is within you," and it's on all our stuff, because I firmly believe that every single thing we need to get us to where we want to be is within us already. But because we have had experiences that have caused fear, that have caused disconnect, that have caused us to believe that we're not enough, we're not good enough, we're not smart enough, we're not rich enough, we're not rubbish. The magic is within us all. We just need to keep quiet for long enough, and the answers will all come to us.
Who is your ideal client?
Oh, this is a good one. My ideal client. I have lots of ideal clients. I call them guests. So I have my ideal guest is someone who believes that they are broken, someone who believes that because of the upbringing that they have had, because of the childhood they've had, because of the marriage they've had, they are the way they are. And that's just not true. You are who you are. You are who you are because of what happened to you. You are who you are, not in spite of it. So, my ideal client is someone who's willing and open to go there, someone who's willing and open to have a look in that darkness to find their own light.
How do you find your ideal client?
This is a good one as well, actually. I don't. They find me. I am in a very fortunate position now. I've been in business for 6 years, and when I'm in the first year in business, I contacted so many different organisations, contacted corporates to work with people in the corporate setting to do coaching and stuff around, people's early life experiences, because it holds us back so much. And I really, knocked on so many doors, and people just never really understood what it was that I was offering. And there's I think a lot of people talk about things like post-traumatic stress disorder, post-traumatic stress injury. There's a huge wealth of wisdom in trauma, and there's a huge potential for growth. And since I've really, stuck by that, and I've really kind of carved a path for myself, I find that I no longer go and find my ideal client. They come and find me.
How do you engage your ideal client?
We have quite an active Facebook presence. I would write some articles. During lockdown, everyone went, not everyone, but most people went into this real panic state. I got together with 19 of my friends, and we wrote a book about resilience. We wrote a book about how to really just be in the moment, and how, regardless of where you've been and what you've done and the experiences you've had, it doesn't mean that you can't go on and do what you want to do. So I wrote a book, and that's a really good way of getting people onto my path. I'm an international public speaker, so I do quite a lot of public speaking at trauma conferences and conferences around addiction. I do quite a lot of work with trauma and addiction, because both of these things go hand in hand. Addiction is generally a coping strategy when we feel we've completely disconnected from the world around us. And when I talk about trauma, I don't mean an event. Trauma is not an event. Trauma is what happens inside of us in response to that event. And sometimes we can carry so much stuff, and I call it stuff because it's very complex and there's so many components to it. We can carry that for a very, very long time. So I engage with my clients by using authenticity, by using truth. We all need to step into our truth, and life just becomes so much easier. So I engage with my ideal guest in being authentic and open and honest.
How do you deliver a 5-star client experience?
A 5-star client experience for me is around authenticity and openness, and not to take things personally. Some people, and especially in the line of work that I'm in, some people have really high anxiety, and they can come in to the centre, or they can come up to me after a talk, and they can be, you said this, and that's not how it is for me. And again, just using honesty and saying, I can see how upset you are right now, or I can see how anxious you are right now. Is there anything that I can do for you? So to deliver a 5-star guest experience, it's about making it about them. It's not about you. So often we take things to be so personal. We take things to be as a personal attack, but we're not responding to what's happening in the moment. We're simply reacting to something that's happened previously that is similar to what's in our environment just now. So I deliver a 5-star experience by keeping very present, by allowing myself to really be there for the guest and to really take in what their concerns are, but to also make sure that every single part of the experience is exactly how I would like it to be if I went into a service. So we used certain colours when we painted the Floatation Centre. We use certain smells that enable people to realise that there's somewhere that's quite special, that there's somewhere that's very calming and relaxing. And only 7% of communication is words. The rest of it is all body language, environment, tone of voice, colours, various different things. We also have a light at the back of the reception office, the reception desk, and the light breathes, and it breathes in for 6 and breathes out for 8. So simply standing in front of that just brings your blood pressure, your heart rate, your breathing rate, everything down just that little bit, which enables the guest to realise that there's somewhere that's going to be nice and calming for them. And I think in the world the way it is just now, we just all need to take that time to just be, to just connect into ourselves.
How do you convert your clients into your brand ambassador?
My work does that. My work does that. And again, it's coming down to honesty, transparency. And we have an ambassador program, actually, that's what we call it. And the ambassador program is people can come and float on a regular basis. So they can use Floatation once a month, and they get a reduced cost. but they can float, they could float once a week, they could float however many times they like. What I do speaks for itself. And I think if you hard sell someone, we're so turned off now to hard sales. Nobody wants to be sold to constantly, constantly, constantly. And I think in Hydroease, we leave it to be the ambassadors naturally select themselves and come forward and say, this is something I'd like to do on a more frequent basis. When it comes to the RAFT program, which is reconnection and flotation therapy, so it's working on the one-to-ones, working on a one-to-one basis with myself to look at trauma growth strategies, to look at the timelines behind the emotions that are causing you distress. What I find is that when again, because I'm using a lot of somatic, working with the body and with the mind, and really getting people to kind of step back from their behaviours and step back from the decisions that they're making to see, are these the best behaviours that are serving me well? Are these the best decisions that are serving me well? And when you do that, start to see the change themselves, they then go out and tell the world. So if you can get it right for one person, and especially one person who might be pivotal within a community, here in Northern Ireland, we have the generational legacy of the Troubles. So, word of mouth travels pretty quick, and word of mouth would be our best way of converting people into brand ambassadors, because it's, when people are saying good things, then other people become interested, especially in my line of work. A lot of it is about trust and finding someone that is going to support you to make a difference.
We are about to move into lightning round. That means quick question and quick answer. Are you ready?
Sure.
What are you grateful for today?
Today, I am grateful for my dog who's lying behind me here because he got me out even when it was raining.
How do you start your day?
Every day I start my day with a shower and I do some self-havening where I rub my arms and I rub my hands and I say a mantra in my head. The only expectation I have of today is no expectations.
What do you want to do when you grow up?
Oh, there's a question. When I grow up, I would like to be me.
What's your plan to achieve your goal?
My plan to achieve my goal is to just keep connecting with me, is to listen to the voice within and use her wisdom.
How will you feel in case you don't achieve your goal?
I will feel that I tried my best.
How do you overcome a challenge life throws at you?
I just take it as it comes. Challenges are fantastic opportunities for growth. Love a good challenge.
What is the advice you will give to younger yourself?
The advice I would give to my younger self is believe in yourself, is really see what is in the mirror, and don't let anyone tell you any different.
How can we support you?
You can support me by going to our website, having a look at our website. You can support me by, as I say, I wrote a book. So the book is called Be Life for Belief. You can support me in many ways. The biggest way you could support me is get yourself into a flotation tank. It will change your life. There's float tanks all over the world. They're popping up everywhere. And if you're ever in Northern Ireland, you can support me by coming and let me make you a coffee.
We are about to wrap up. I like to have your few words about your today's guest experience on the show. Here is my question. What would you say about your today's guest experience on the show?
It's been lovely. It's been really good. I've really enjoyed it, and it's for someone who's as busy as me. When I first was contacted to come on, sometimes podcasts can go on a long time, or interviews can go on a long time. So I've loved this. The questions have been short, sharp, and snappy, and you've been a great host.
What would you say as a final word?
As a final word, I would say, go out there, be the best you can. Don't let anyone tell you that you can't do anything. And always remember, the magic is within you.
Thank you so much, Vivian, for sharing your wisdom with us today on the behalf of Growth Hacking Secrets community and our entire team. We really appreciate you. This is Mohammed Siddique signing off from Atlanta, Georgia. Until the next episode, all good wishes.